Hi, welcome in Dwarsgracht. You may have heard about Giethoorn, the Venice of the North here in the Netherlands. A little town full of tourists, especially since it's on the list of many Chinese people to visit and then all the other tourists. And then not too far from there is Dwarsgracht. Remote, it's now Sunday afternoon, summer, nobody here. And in this picture perfect place, there are plenty of small bridges you cross. You may cycle here, it's a bit narrow. And then continue and continue. And look at the stunning views. Narrow trail. And it's very funny shaped houses. Camelback houses. In the early days, the people lived in the front, and when they had some extra money, they started to extend in the back. They made the roof a little bit higher, so cattle, hay, and everything could be stowed away in there. And that's when they made the roof higher than the front house, and a camelback kind of, or a dromedary back almost, was the effect. And this beautiful tiny kind of camelback roof house used to be a farm. It's also renting out rooms, so it is a kind of a bed and breakfast. So even in small Dwarsgracht you can find your peace and quiet and beauty. But nice is that in their backyard they still have stowed away some old milk cans. And these milk cans were used by the farmers and even cleaned in the water next to their farm. The water wasn't that clean in those days. You can't imagine now, although it's probably natural dirt, but not something you think, oh, we can clean and we can drink it. But the milk cans were, when they were full, picked up by small boats and brought to the nearby towns, which could have been quite a long sail. Living in Giethoorn or in Dwarsgracht meant that you had to have a small flat bottom ship, and not with an engine like this one had. But on this ship you could transport your cattle, your sheep, and also, not to be missed, thatch the reeds for all the roofs that are around here. And what is really interesting on this marshy land is all the peat soil. And peat is like a really black kind of dirt, the plants that die down and become like black earth. And it takes like 1 centimeter per year. So imagine if you dig a peat away, I've seen peat as well in Ireland, 1 meter is 1,000 years you just clear out right away, burning your stoves, which is necessary, but an unhealthy way with lots of smoke. It's very wet, and imagine if a plant dies down, this grass here, and you can see the water, it's very soggy. I'm probably walking on floating land. This grass dies down, it will go onto the grass that's already there, and slowly a big mattress floating on actually the water is developed here. And the first were of course the water plants, then they start to shape little islands, and then slowly they can become like little fields, little meadows. But when I'm jumping already, it's really going up and down. A big truck, maybe with this little machine thing, could drive here with wide wheels, but otherwise no way. I find peat and the marshlands here intriguing. Also digging the peat away. When they were here, they had to reclaim the land. That sense that the marshland was too wet, they had to take the water away. And when you take the water away, the peat's layer becomes dry and starts to, like a sponge, disappear and become smaller, like a sponge that's drying. That sense the water table goes down, or actually the land goes down, so you have to pump the water out, and that's why we needed windmills also in this area. To make the land workable, to get the peat out, but also to make it a bit drier, to have cattle or sheep walk around. You don't want them to be too swampy with their feet either. And if you've ever seen peat digging in Northern Ireland or England, it is dry peat, high peat, so to say. So you can just walk on the fields and dig it away, make it in kind of brick-shaped blocks and sell it to the market and put it into your stove. Here it was pretty wet, and here you see an old peat digger. They have a long stick with a kind of a basket on a ring, and they just scoop out the mud, which is really watery still, and they would have long strips of land. They would dump that mud on there so the water could seep out and a drier layer of mud will remain, and that one would be rolled with rolling knives into long strips and then sideways, so you get also little brick-shaped blocks. And that, when it was dry, was transported towards, let's say, Amsterdam, and it's known to be the gold, the black gold. That was the nickname for peat. Hard work, the peat diggers, but a common job here in Dwarsgracht, Giethoorn, and everybody here in the region that's called the Weeribben, and a bit further down, the Wieden. And even though it's mostly an area here where people live or have second homes, there are some tourists cycling, hiking, boating, or going on a day tour. I'm coming here at the end of the trail, and the last house, beautifully private, because not so far behind me is a little cafe with a terrace along this waterway where every now and then a boat passes. You could bike here, be careful on the narrow bridges and paths, and of course you can walk here. It's not long, it's about 1.5 kilometers, and I don't think there's more than 250 people living here, at least 10 years ago. When you come here, it's so nice to see these old farmhouses, to see the peace and quiet, and these old reedlands with some storks far away. The thatch, these reeds, used to be harvested in the winter, and we had in the old days cold winters, so you could walk on the ice or ice skate, have sledges and bring these reeds in. Nowadays our winters are not so warm, not so cold, pretty warm, and everything has to be done by boat. It's much more work to get to all the places. But reed is harvested and used for different purposes, and very likely for thatching roofs. And this is one of my favorite towns. It is so gorgeous, it is quiet, and yet so special. So don't tell anyone else if you see this YouTube video, because you shouldn't spoil it. Why am I here?